to lead this meeting. I'm Michelle and I'm an alcoholic. I haven't got anything planned to say, so I'm just going to wing it, as I told Mary. And I was thinking that I like to say I'm an alcoholic because just for me personally, if I say I'm in recovery, that sort of reminds me of getting better from a sickness, or if I'm an addict, I am an alcohol addict. But to say that I'm an alcoholic, it reinforces it for me, because if there's ever any time that it would be dangerous for me to relapse, to drink, I'm nearly 18 months, it would be me forgetting or not caring that I'm an alcoholic. Many years ago, I got 5 years straight sober up, nearly, and I had not gone to meetings for many months. And I remember thinking that I'm probably not an alcoholic. I can, like many people have thought the same thing, I can probably handle it now. And I did for about a month, and then I was straight back doing what I did before. I wouldn't say it was any worse, but I was binging and blacking out and doing all the things I had done before the 5 years. And I feel like I didn't lose those 5 years, because it was definitely a learning curve, but it took me many years to come back to AA. I won't really dwell on my past very much. I don't know why I'm an alcoholic. I was born that way, I think. I didn't have a particularly bad childhood. It was okay. I was never hospitalised, or I never lost a job, came close once. I never lost a marriage, or I didn't lose a house, or none of those horrible traumatic things ever happened to me. I believe that I didn't ever drink to feel normal. I drank to get out of this world. I drank because I wanted to party. I was bored. I'd often drink when I was bored, or if something, for any reason really, but it was always to be someone else and to lose control. And in the later years of my drinking, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to drink in public, didn't want to drink in social situations. I would wait till we got home and I would drink, and I wouldn't even taste it. I hate the taste of alcohol. I hate the taste of beer, wine, yuck, yuck, yuck. I only drank it for effect. I have never liked the taste of alcohol. But what it did to me, where it sent me in the beginning, that was what I liked, especially those first few, maybe the first hour while I'm guzzling it down, because I never drank as a dainty person. It was just pour it down. And those, before I blacked out, that was what I wanted, because I felt like $1 million. I felt like, I could do anything. I felt like the world was great. I felt like I loved everybody. Luckily, I'm not a violent drunk. When I drink, I love everybody. Sometimes I love people too much, which has been a hassle in the past. So it was that. And I discovered early on, I worked in an industry with big drinkers, music industry, huge drinkers. But even with the big drinkers in the 80s, people would say to me, we know people like you, Michelle. We know that you drink, and then there's a point where you change. My whole personality changed, and that must be where I blacked out. And that was not like other people. Other people, big drinkers, would get drunk and go home and catch a cab and everything. But every time I blacked out, and they would say to me, we know when that point comes, because it's like a switch that's turned on in your brain. It must be the neurotransmitters firing off or something. So even though I worked in an industry of big drinkers, people would go, maybe you should think about giving up sometime. And I didn't for many years. I didn't. And by the time I thought about giving up, I just knew I couldn't without help. So I went to traditional AA, and I hated the steps. I hated the big book. I still can't stand that big book. Oh my God. I hated the patriarchal sort of pseudo-religiosity of the whole thing. And it is. Traditional AA is not for me. However, I was so desperate. That I went. And same as here, I met some wonderful people who were also atheists in those days. And I got sober for nearly 5 years. Stupidly enough, as I mentioned before, I forgot that I was an alcoholic and I went back. And coming up to sort of more modern day, I'm married. I've been with my husband, who's not an alcoholic, for nearly 26 years now. And I honestly don't know how we got through those early days, because I met him when he was coming out of a pretty nasty divorce and he was drinking a lot. And I thought, great, a big drinker, because all my friends, big drinkers. People who didn't drink, I thought there was something wrong with them. They were nearly on the same level to me as people who don't like animals. I thought, fuck, you don't drink? What do? You don't drink, don't smoke, what do? You must be some sort of bloody axe murderer or something. So I always gravitated, and my husband was drinking a lot at the time, but we got together and he got happier, and I did too. He's a wonderful guy. So his drinking slowed down, but mine didn't, and it got into a new pattern. Over the years, he would, if we went out somewhere and I'd drink, it'd be terrible. We'd have a fight. So we had this agreement that I'd only drink at home, and so we'd have parties at our place. And he'd always say to me, I said, well, how come you never get drunk? He'd say, because I have to stay relatively sober to take care of you. And I thought, oh shit, you poor bugger. But I didn't care. I loved it when my friends came over and we drank, and I'd go and I'd dance around. I'd do all sorts of stupid things. Anyway, it sort of got worse and worse, because I was getting older, being drunk and blacked out is sort of cutesy maybe on a 20-year-old, but when you're in your 60s, it's a bit pathetic. And my hangovers were getting worse. It's that even worse than the physical thing, it's the psychological, the booze blues. I would be depressed for days and days. And even though I wasn't a daily drinker, I'd sort of drink Friday, I'd drink and I'd have a horrible hangover, and then I'd drink Sunday, and then, I'd sort of drink, but I'd be thinking about it all the time. By the time I came to on Sunday and went to work, I worked then on Monday, I'd be thinking, oh, great, it'll be, yay, bring on Friday, then I can have a drink. But I'd be working up to it all week, thinking, yay, 4 more days, I can have a big boozer, 3 more days, 2 more days. So it's that drinking, thinking thing. And I'd manage sort of maybe once or twice to get 3 weeks sober up, but I'd be nuts. I'd be hanging out, and I'd have the shakes. And when I say I was coming home on a Friday, I'd get that apprehensive, nervous thing, just before you have a drink. It's the adrenaline builds up and you're like shaking and you're thinking, this is going to be fantastic. Then boom, whoosh. And of course I black out and feel like shit the next day. And it was that roller coaster thing, that carousel that I was on, that once again, I couldn't get off. I tried and I tried, and it was, just the realization that I couldn't stop. And after one particularly ridiculous episode, my husband said, look, you really got to do this, because poor guy, having a drunk wife all the time, carrying on about things. As I said, I'm not a violent drunk, I'm a lovable drunk, but that can get pretty boring. And pretend, like when I'm in my 60s, drinking, pretending I'm bloody 20-year-old at a Led Zeppelin concert or something. That's just ridiculous. So he said, look, you've really got to do something about your drinking. And I said, yeah. And I said, maybe I'll go back to AA. And he said, you think? And I said, yeah. And I knew that I'd have to go back to, because I didn't know about secular AA. I thought, oh shit, I will just have to put up with it, put up with the God stuff, ignore it, just try and get through it, you know, just something. So I did go back to traditional AA, and I thought, oh, Jesus, every second word was God, and every third word was higher power, and doing the steps, and he, thee, and so. But at one meeting, I heard somebody say, I went to this secular meeting, and it just didn't seem right without God. And I thought, boing, my ears went. So I looked through, and I found AANP, and that was it was August 2021 that I found, so it soon be 2 years that I found AANP, and I thought it was the best thing ever, and it is the best thing ever. It was, honestly, it was the answer to all my dreams, and I put down the drink for a few months, and then I wasn't drinking and things were great. I was feeling excellent. And then one day I was at the hairdresser in December. It was the 3rd of December, 2021. Just normal day at the hairdresser, driving home from the hairdresser. Nothing wrong. Everything's fine. An ordinary Friday. And bing, in my mind comes, why don't you have a beer? And I thought, yeah. And by the time I'd worked up to it, I said, right. I said to my husband, I'm going to have a beer. And he said, are you sure? And so I went out and got all these beers, and I blitzed myself. And lapsing in AA it's not fine, but it happens. But I think AA really ruins your lapses or your relapses, because not only did I feel like shit physically and psychologically, I thought, no, how can I go back to those people? And I said to my husband, I don't think I'll go back. And he said, oh, that's right. I said to my husband, I don't think I'll say anything. And he said, yes, but you'd be lying to yourself. And he said, if to his eternal credit, he said, just tell them, just tell them. So I did. And they were wonderful. And I'm not a really teary person, but I really did cry that day. It was so warm and lovely. And, you know, you feel like you really let everybody and yourself down. But for some of us, not all of us, some of us, it does happen. And from that day in December, I haven't relapsed. I came close, very, very close in January this year, but I haven't relapsed. And I don't think about alcohol anymore on a daily basis. I don't. But I could, and that's why I've got to say I'm an alcoholic, because otherwise I'll forget, or I'll think, oh, you know, I'm never in jail, never this, never lost a job, never drank every day. Maybe I'm not, or maybe I don't care, but I do care that I'm an alcoholic. And even, you know, to come into AA, we're broken people. Something's wrong. You don't come into AA because life's hunky-dory. You come into AA because you feel broken, life is shit, you feel like a piece of shit, and you come in, and I've seen people come in, they're just desperate for some sort of light in the tunnel, some sort of, I was going to say bondage, but some sort of bond with other people, and that's what you get. I haven't done the steps. I don't have a higher power. I will maybe do the steps. I keep saying I maybe will, maybe I won't. But what I do get here is talking to other people who are like me. Not exactly, all of us are different, but we've all been through some sort of traumatic experience with some sort of substance. And we come here because we're reaching out to others who have had the same experience, because out there in normal life, there aren't any. We're lone soldiers a lot of the time. My two best friends, and they're still my best friends, are huge drinkers. I think one of them's an alcoholic, but she doesn't care. She drinks all the time and she's fine. She does not care. And now that it's coming on for nearly 18 months that I haven't had a drink, they're used to it now. In the beginning, they were sort of, oh, okay, you're not drinking. Great, they said. But I don't think they expected it to last. And now they're used to it. they have never tried to force me to drink. If anyone tried to force me to drink, I would just, I don't know what I'd do, but it wouldn't be pleasant. That is not a friend. So yeah, they're big drinkers, and that's good for them. They might, I don't know. But yeah, so I came back into AA and I found AANP, and as with all human beings, we are deeply flawed, and I certainly am. And a couple of months ago, I thought, oh, this is shitting me. This is really shitting me. I'm going to go away. And I didn't go to meetings for 2 months. I didn't go to meetings, didn't go to AANP, and I thought, you know, and I found myself, I mentioned it the other day when I came in and shared, I found myself sort of not having anything to look forward to much in the day. I'm retired and I've got a little routine that I've got, but it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon here for me, and it's good for me to have AANP in the afternoon because I have something to sort of, it sounds pretty pathetic, sounds like my life is worthless, but it's something to sort of be with in the afternoon. And about a week ago, I started thinking, oh, I wonder if I really am an alcoholic. And then I thought, oh, shit. Because I said to my husband, do you think I'm an alcoholic? And he looked at me funny. He said, you certainly have alcoholic tendencies. And I think that's his way of saying yes. And I thought, oh, once I start thinking like that, the next thing is to, you know, think, oh, a little beer wouldn't be bad. And then I'll be back. And I don't want to, at my stage of life, be a drunken old woman. I just don't want to be that. And I'm much happier without the booze in my life. But also I need, it's been said before, and when I was a newcomer and they said putting down the drinking was easy, it's the thinking that's the problem, I sort of thought, oh, well, once I put down the drinking, everything will be perfect. And it was for a while, but then even the drinking, taken away the drinking, I think it's Arlene says, I can stop the drinking, but I can't stop the thinking. And that's so true. We think all sorts of weird things. I think myself into performances and pantomimes and weird things and, oh, being obsessed about stuff. So I need to come here to just as an anchor, I guess. So I came back, and I always intended to come back. I just being me, I guess, being a bloody prima donna. But yeah, so being here at AANP and other parts of secular AA is just it's a tonic for me. It's a life tonic, and I'm so glad I'm here, and I'm so glad you're here. If you weren't here, I'd be that drunken old woman lying around in a pub somewhere before. Anyway, that's about it from me. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone.